Hey guys, welcome back to Jon-Bon Workshop. I am John, and this is part 3 of my workbench build. To get started with today, I'm going to add blocking over these casters. The original plan had little short blocks over the casters to help support the weight of the frame on the casters. And I think I'm just going to put in a full length 2x4 there. It'll provide more strength, and I think it'll be cleaner. So that's what I'm going to do. The top needs to be fastened to the frame, which I haven't done yet. The original plans had these little brackets, little metal brackets mortised into the top of the frame and then attached with screws out here. I'm not going to do that either. I think I'm going to use a 1/2-inch Forstner bit and drill up into the frame and then connect the top to the frame with a deck screw with a washer on the end of it. And I'll do that in 4 or 5 spots, front and back. After that, we're going to work on the cabinet for the storage bins in the front of this thing. So, if you haven't subscribed yet and hit that bell, you want to make sure you catch the last part, part 4. Do that now, and then kick back and get ready. Here I'm cutting the caster supports, then I'll mark the fastener locations, and I'll put the screws to them. This really gives the casters a lot more support. Alright, I clamped this top down to the frame. Got me a 5/8 Forstner bit, and my deck screws that I got are they're about perfect. I could probably just put them in there, but I'm going to put a little divot in there with my Forstner bit, hide the screws, make them flush, and then I'm going to put a washer on the end of this thing so it can't really pull up into the frame. So that's my plan. 4 places across the underside of this frame, evenly spread out. So go back with 3/16 drill bit, just as deep as I can go with this thing, because this isn't as deep enough to get into the top. Just a deck screw with a washer on the end of it. Keeps it from pulling up into that frame. Now I'm cutting the parts out for my organizer box cabinet. I will install the slides before I assemble the cabinet because it's so much easier to do now than after assembly. I used the 3-inch wide strips that Jon helped me cut to fasten the 2 sides together. I've come to really like assembling the hidden cabinets this way. Not only does it save building materials, it also seems easier to get everything straight and square. I will use this method in an upcoming future project. I like it. So I'm going to make 8 organizer trays for this cabinet. So I'm going to cut out all those parts. You probably don't want to watch me cut out all those parts. So I will show you how I cut it. One of the drawers on the table saw, because you just make a set with a 1/4 inch dado and you cut all the parts one setup. So it's actually kind of cool. I taped all my light drawer parts together and cut them all at one time. This is more accurate and saves tons of time. So now we're going to build the trays for our organizer cabinet, and we're going to use quarter joinery. There's YouTube videos on that. But anyway, you got a 1/4 inch rabbet on this front and back, and you get a 1/4 inch dado on the sides, and these things go together really tight. And then 1/4 inch bottom goes in there, holds it all nice and square. So anyway, a really stout drawer. Like when the drawer front, the reason drawers fall apart is because you pull out on these things so many times over and over and end up pulling these joints loose. Well, these are actually dadoed inside that's the side of the drawer. I mean, they can't pull out. So unless the drawer just completely breaks or something, but they can't pull out. So it makes a really strong drawer. So that's what we're going to use for the organizer cabinet and the drawers in the back side of the workbench. You can do 7 more. I cut a scrap strip of plywood half the width of my drawer so I could easily mark center. I used this center line to install my inner drawer slides. I'm going to go ahead and do my face framing and make some doors. I'm actually not going to do anything like what the original plan had. He had like 2 slide out drawers here where they come out to hold your drill bits, which is a good idea. I just don't really like the way it looks. So I'm going to put a drawer here at the bottom for the tools for the router, and then this will just be a set of doors here, or 1 door here. And face frame this and trim it up. So I'm going to get started doing that right now. I use pocket holes and glue to build an inner face frame. This is what the front door will attach to, and the drawer will be built inside it. The outer face frame I'll build later to make it pretty. course, it never fails. One of them shoots out the side. The door gets a chamfer, and I use the Craig concealed hinge jig to install my hinges. If you haven't ever used this jig, you should try it next time you're installing these kinds of hinges. It makes it super easy. The drawer front gets the same chamfer as the door, and I use CA glue and blue painter's tape to line it up. Then I fasten it from the back side with screws. I use pocket holes and wood glue to build the outer face frame. Then I install it with brads. Right, now that I got that all trimmed out, I think the next thing I'll do is I'm going to install the switch here in this door, centered on the door, knee high, and the plans call for it to be mortised in there, and I think I'm going to do that. I like that. I don't think it's nice and clean, so I'm going to do that next. So anyway, that didn't really come out of there all that easily, but it did finally come out of there. So I'll use this to make a little template. Alright, I think I figured out what I'm going to do. I think all I need is just this block, and I'm going to put it in the front of this thing here. I'm going to glue this down, and I'll just run a little pilot hole and screw right here, and that'll hold it. Actually, that'll hold it just fine here. This won't be able to go nowhere. So that's the plan. I think I might run a little chamfer around the inside of that too to clean it up. That's nice. Alright guys, before I move on, I want to talk about the electrical and the vacuum system on this. Everything here is 15 amp, so it's going to be a 15 amp circuit. It's going to be supplied by a 15 amp circuit. I am not an electrician by no means, nor am I going to play one on TV, but I'm comfortable enough to do it for myself. I've done a lot for myself. And most of this is plug and play. I'm going to install this in the side of the bench. This is like a plug for an RV. And as you can see, you just plug an extension cord in here and that's what's going to power the bench. And it has 2 outlets on it. One of them will go to my automatic vacuum switch and plug your power tool in here and your vacuum in here. And when you activate the power tool, on comes the vacuum. And it has the delay, so it shuts off a few seconds after, continues vacuuming. I'm going to put a splitter on this so that I can run a vacuum outlet on the outside of the bench. The top outlet on this will be for, say, my sander. If I want to run my sander with the automatic vacuum, then it should work. I'll just open the blast gate, plug my sander in, plug the sander into the top outlet, and it'll activate the vacuum as whenever I turn on the sander. The exact same thing for the router. I mean, the router does the same thing, activates the vacuum for the dust collection. So that's the plan for that. I'm just going to put an outlet in on both sides of the bench. Of course, on the router side, the top one will be a vacuum outlet, the bottom will just be a live outlet, and then I'll have live outlets on the opposite side of the bench. So I'm going to do that next because if I built the cabinet for the back, I'd have a hard time getting in there to wire one of these outlets. So that's my plan. Probably going to do that and see where we're at from there. I got that run in there. You just have to trust me on that. Kind of a bear to get it tacked up underneath there, but I got it. And I think how I'm going to wire this, I have a plug-in cord here. And I think this will come from we're probably going to do a black one for live power, so the outlets are hot all the time. And then I have an orange one similar to this, and I think I'm going to do that to run the vacuum for the vacuum plug here. So I'll get that wired up and let you see what it looks like. Well, I said I was going to use an orange cord for my vacuum outlet, but I'm not because prong for the ground is missing. So I'm just going to use 2 black ones. I break the tab between the 2 outlets to isolate the top and bottom from one another. Then I wire one of the cords to the top outlet and plug it into the vacuum controller. The bottom outlet gets plugged into the second RV plug I installed earlier. Well guys, that is going to do it for part 3. I've got the electrical in. All we really have left to do for part 4 is we have a cabinet to build here with 4 drawers, some cabinet doors, trim it out, dust collection, which is kind of plug and play, and give it a paint job, and that'll be it. So don't miss that. It'll be pretty good. It's exciting to see what it looks like when it gets all done. My favorite part. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.